gonna chase down those greaser dogs, get back what's mine, and tie 'em to a tree. Dog.
Remember the good old days when you used to watch your favorite Nickelodeon shows with your parents, but a certain joke would make no sense to you and it would make your parents almost spit out their coffee? To understand the reason, as an adult, you should revisit those cartoons to have your mind blown and your childhood ruined. So, we're going to help you ruin it a little more. In today's video, we're going to discuss 10 Nickelodeon cartoon shows that feature an abundance of adult humor and risque innuendos that you might have barely noticed as a child. Before we get into this explanation, though, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. It's a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. With that out of the way, let's dive on in.
Wait, Spooky, what did it mean? Not the water.
Number 1. Rocko's Modern Life. Euphemisms everywhere. Created by Joe Murray, Rocko's Modern Life is an American animated TV show that first aired in September 1993 on Nickelodeon and ran until November 1996. The series follows an Australian immigrant wallaby named Rocko and his unusual circle of friends, including an overexcited steer named Heifer, who was raised by wolves, a nervous turtle named Filbur, and Spunky, Rocko's pet dog. Initially, the titular character was created for an unpublished comic book series that never came out, but after Rocko made it to TV, it not only became a famous show, but also a controversial one because of its double-meaning jokes, toilet humor, dark satire, and sexual innuendos presented throughout the series in cartoonish ways. As a kid, you might have laughed at these jokes without even understanding, but now, looking back at them, you can find the humor a little extra raunchy. Like, remember when early in the show, Rocko and his friends used to dine at a place called the Choky Chicken? As a child, you might have enjoyed the weird name that made no sense, but the adult version of you might clearly understand the cheeky hint behind it. Also, there was a time when the financially broke Rocko took the job of a specialty phone operator, where the ground rules were to be hot, naughty, and of course, courteous. When Rocko was doing his job perfectly, making porn noises on the phone, it went over our heads back then, but now it seems like they weren't even trying to be subtle. However, it goes without saying that the show had numerous censorship issues throughout its run, such as the name of the dining place being changed from Choky Chicken to Chewy Chicken to make it more kid-friendly. Also, the Road Rash episode, in which Rocko books a room at the No-Tell Motel, had the implied sex jokes removed after its first broadcast. Still, there are plenty of other innuendos that the censors missed, but they definitely raise our eyebrows whenever we re-watch this show. Two, Ren and Stimpy, pushing all boundaries. American animator John Kricfalusi created the Ren and Stimpy show, which originally aired on Nickelodeon in August 1991. With a total of 5 seasons and 52 episodes, it ran until December 1995, with the last episode airing in 1996 on MTV. The story centers around a short-tempered chihuahua named Ren Hoek and a foolish but emotional cat named Stimpson J, or Stimpy. Ren and Stimpy's roles changed in each episode, as in one episode they're exploring space, while in others they're stealing Old West horses. Additionally, some episodes feature them almost like a married couple, even showing Stimpy getting pregnant by Ren. Throughout these episodes, you can see a hell of a lot of slapstick, raunchy jokes that weren't even subtle. One of the raunchiest gags of all was when Ren sneakily looks at the hot women wearing bikinis on the beach and a balloon in his hand explodes. Another example of a quite famous double entendre is when Ren and Stimpy are locked inside a closet and Stimpy calls himself a sword swallower. Some other scenes aren't quite sexual, but they can still make you nauseous with their gross humor. For instance, in one episode, Ren and Stimpy live inside a drunk man's mouth where the uvula of the man makes a nasty move by licking Ren's buttocks. Yikes. Also, there are several scenes where eating vomit is shown in the most casual of ways. We don't know how kids appreciated that back then, but these gross acts weren't even that funny. There was also a running joke with grotesque images, as the illustration would suddenly zoom in and become more vivid and grotesque, as opposed to its usual cartoonish depiction, like the time a neurotic man peeled off his elbow skin and sprinkled salt and lemon on it. The sudden shift to a more realistic view of the elbow will surely give you the icks. Consequently, the parents made some complaints, and some scenes featuring political and religious commentary were altered. For example, one of the most notorious episodes, Man's Best Friend, was removed from Nickelodeon because of its graphic violent content, and even MTV didn't want to air it. Therefore, years later, Spike TV would make a revival called Ren and Stimpy Adult Party Cartoon that showed the banned episode as the pilot. 3. SpongeBob SquarePants. Subtle Prison Gags. Created by marine science educator and animator Steven Hillenburg, SpongeBob SquarePants is one of the most globally popular cartoons ever, as well as a significant pop culture icon. From SpongeBob memes to a few minutes later templates being used almost everywhere, this animated show isn't yet a faded memory, unlike the other cartoon shows we've discussed on this list already. Due to its child-friendly humor, SpongeBob remains one of the funniest cartoon characters ever, and he's still being aired on OTT platforms. However, it aired for the first time on Nickelodeon on May 1st, 1999. The story follows our energetic sea sponge who lives in a submerged pineapple under the sea. He and his nitwit friend, a pink starfish named Patrick, his grumpy neighbor Squidward, and the greedy restaurant owner Mr. Krabs are iconic characters from the show. Nevertheless, a kid-friendly show like SpongeBob has sometimes given a subtle touch of adult humor over the years, but none of these moments compare to the ones we've seen in Ren and Stimpy or Rocko's Modern Life. The adult humor of the show often hinted at prison sex jokes, like when SpongeBob asked his snail friend Gary not to drop the soap while mischievously winking at him, or the time when SpongeBob wanted to make a sausage shaped like a wiener that grabbed Mr. Krabs' attention. Hilariously, there was one unforgettable scene where SpongeBob sneakily watches a sea anemone wiggling its head on television. However, right after Gary walks in, he changes to a sports channel, which suggests that in the marine world, watching a sea anemone is akin to watching porn. 4. Rugrats. Grandpa's Movie Picks. Rugrats was an endearing and popular animated show that aired for over a decade on the Nickelodeon channel. Created by Arlene Klasky, Gabor Chupo, and Paul Germain, the series first aired in August 1991 and ran until August 2004, spanning a total of 9 seasons and 172 episodes. The series follows the hilarious antics of a group of precocious toddlers, Tommy Pickles, Chucky Finster, and twins Phil and Lil. Rugrats had a lot fewer raunchy jokes and less dark humor than Ren and Stimpy or other adult animated shows, but sometimes it would drop some bombs that could unexpectedly raise your eyebrows. In the Rugrats movie, when Tommy's mom is in labor, Tommy and his friends sneak into a maternity ward to come across many newborns who got their umbilical cords cut. One of the female newborns shows their concern, but a male baby dismisses her, saying that she should at least consider herself lucky. Yup, that was a circumcision joke. There have also been several instances where baby nudity and potty training jokes have been featured in the show, particularly nudity when the toddler group accidentally arrived on a nude beach where a bunch of naked adults roam around the island wearing nothing but big placards or holding big watermelons to hide their private parts. Besides that, some scenes featured inappropriate language, such as slang addressed at kids. For instance, when kids' TV show host Carol used slang to scold Angelica, it was even beeped out in the show itself so that viewers couldn't understand what was actually being said. Moreover, there was a famous episode in Season 3 named Cradle Attraction, a nod to the 1987 R-rated film Fatal Attraction. In this episode, Angelica's obsessive love towards the adult Harold becomes the main premise. Another gag was when Grandpa Lou took the kids to the video store and he came back with 3 movies. While 2 of them were intended for the children, the last one came as a bit of a shock. He told the kids that after they were off to bed, he would watch Lonely Space Vixens, subtly hinting that not only kids are the target audience of the show, but their parents could enjoy the cartoon as well. But did they really enjoy it? Over the years, the show received multiple complaints, especially for showing baby nudity as well as aggression, and especially because of Angelica bullying everyone around her in the show. Parental concerns compelled the writers to reconsider their stance on creating adult jokes for the show. 5. Hey Arnold! Poetry with a Twist. Created by Craig Bartlett, Hey Arnold was a popular animated series that first aired in October 1996 and ran until 2004. The story follows a young boy named Arnold Shortman who lives with his grandparents in a fictional city named Hillwood. Along with Arnold, his best friend Gerald and his constant class bully Helga are also introduced. However, Helga's reason for bullying Arnold was simply that she had a huge crush on him. In one of her prayers, she speaks almost poetically about her feelings for Arnold, and she says that he makes her girlhood tremble which clearly hints at her budding sexual desire for Arnold. Several other instances make this cartoon series more akin to an adult show than children's entertainment. For example, have you ever looked at Arnold's grandpa's face and thought it looked a little like something else? Well, you're not wrong. It definitely looks a little like a part of the male genitalia that has no business being included in anyone's facial features. Anyways, Grandpa's memories of him having sex with a hot woman in a barn during World War II could have been one of the more next-level risque developments in the show. However, he was interrupted before he could spill TMI on that memory in front of the children. Later on, the limit would be crossed when a threesome joke was made by a little girl, Lila, who didn't mean it in any sort of sexual way, but we got it right. When Gerald's little sister developed a crush on Arnold and showed off her affection for him in front of Lila, who was supposed to be Arnold's crush, Lila suggested a threesome, which was disturbingly sexual and not at all appropriate for a kids' show.
Drive, son, drive!
6. The Angry Beavers. Band endings. The Angry Birds have no connection to this famous 90s cartoon show, so let's get that clear from the beginning. Created by Mitch Schauer, The Angry Beavers was an animated series that premiered in April 1997 and ran until November 2003. The story follows two beaver brothers, Norbert and Daggett. The golden one is Norbert, who is 4 minutes older than Daggett, the brown one. Norbert's a little smarter, more opinionated, and has the capacity for high reasoning. For that reason, he bullies his younger brother Daggett, who's a little more emotionally charged. The show didn't have a ton of adult jokes in comparison to the other shows we discussed. Still, it definitely had a few moments that appealed more to adult viewers, which is why Nickelodeon canceled the final episode of the series. In the final episode, the series makers broke some cardinal rules of the channel, specifically by having the characters break the fourth wall. The creators thought it would be edgy to make Norbert and Daggett interact with the kids to say that they've been canceled, but the channel was against it because that would shatter the illusion of the fictional world that the children believed in. According to the channel, breaking the fourth wall could have been damaging to kids, which we agree is kinda true because it robs them of their innocent view of the fictional world and its characters. But do you think it would be more harmful than adult tunes like Ren and Stimpy, which exposed kids to adult double-meaning jokes before they were even exposed to sex education? Number 7. Doug. Volcano Eruptions. Produced by Jumbo Pictures, Jim Jenkins's Doug is a classic animated TV show that aired from 1991 to 94 with a total of 117 episodes. The story follows a boy named Douglas Doug Funny who records his early adolescent experiences in his journal, covering how he learned to dance, his first crush at school, all his romantic relationships and platonic friendships, as well as his experience getting a haircut. The show features a number of dark jokes. For example, when Doug's bully Roger called a blue-colored guy Skeet Face, and we still don't know if it was a racial remark or a sexual joke. It also featured some inappropriate inferences and sexual innuendos, such as when Patty Mayonnaise, Doug's crush, walked into the classroom where Doug had prepared his school science project on a volcano, which quickly erupted when Doug saw Patty. 8. Victorious. Grade jokes and body image. Dan Schneider's teen sitcom Victorious was a famous TV series that introduced us to Ariana Grande as Cat Valentine. It first debuted in March 2010 on Nickelodeon and ran until February 2013 with a total of 4 seasons and 57 episodes. The story follows a teenage girl, Tori Vega, played by Victoria Justice, who aspires to become a singer and studies at Hollywood Arts High, a school specializing in the performance arts. She often finds herself in amusing situations alongside her friends, including Jade West, played by Elizabeth Gillies, Beck Oliver, played by Yvonne Georgia, and her sister Trina, played by Daniela Monet. Despite being a kids' show, several adult jokes and mature themes were present in the series, which appealed more to college students and a teenage audience than to kids. Like when Andre was worried about his grades decreasing from an A to a D, and Jade related to it, saying that she had the same experience in 8th grade. When she said that, she wasn't referring to her grades, but rather the changes in her body. In another episode, while holding a sausage in her hands, a jealous Tori finds Kat dancing with her ex. As Jade interrupts her, she asks Jade if she wants to get slapped by a sausage. Jade, leaning her cheek to get slapped, proves that she meant it slightly differently. Moreover, there was a scene when Andre feels a little wonky about Jade, which was a naive way to say horny, as Andre developed a crush on her and couldn't tame his urge to kiss her.
Blue-blooded, three-eyed frog, just a feline canine little cat dog, cat dog.
Number 9. Cat Dog. darker than it looks. Cat Dog was another famous late 90s animated TV show that aired for the first time in April 1998 on Nickelodeon and continued until June 2005, spanning a total of 4 seasons with 68 episodes. Created by Peter Hannon, the story follows a cat and dog conjoined in the middle parts of their body, meaning they have no tail or hind legs. Despite their personalities being polar opposites, they shared a single body, which caused considerable disagreement between the two. Unlike the earlier cartoons discussed, Cat Dog doesn't feature a great range of adult jokes. Still, it does touch on some dark and occasionally risque jokes, such as flirting or discussing seductive mannerisms, which is a little inappropriate for kids. Like when they're working in a taco stand and their boss says customers come first, Cat says that he can't remember it that way. This line, coming from Cat, was clearly a sexual innuendo presented in the most subtle way possible. Besides the jokes, some heavy cartoon violence, such as grotesque imagery, wasn't quite kid-friendly. Like, whenever Dog drags the cat through an uneven surface, Cat ends up getting shredded or heavily wounded with bruises all over its body, as well as some dark slapstick elements including images of slime, vomit, drool, and light versions of body horror elements that were shown in a very silly and cartoonish way on this show. 10. iCarly, Digital Age Double Entendres. Another creation of Dan Schneider, iCarly was a famous teen sitcom that aired for the first time in September 2007 and ran until November 2012. The story follows teenage girl Carly Shay, portrayed by Miranda Cosgrove, who creates and hosts her own web show called iCarly. Her friends, Sam, played by Jeanette McCurdy, and Freddie, played by Nathan Kress, appear on that show along with her. The show takes place in her apartment where she lives with her older brother Spencer. Now, the conflict arises when the show gains sudden popularity, causing trouble for the youngsters as they try to balance their regular teenage life and their newfound fame. Despite the show dealing with a thoughtful subject, especially from a kid's perspective on fame, there were some innuendos that our naive minds failed to process back then. For instance, Spencer would get happy whenever Connie, his new girlfriend, showed off her skill at juggling balls. And although she was literally juggling the balls, we can understand the innuendo even better when Spencer broke up with his girlfriend when he found out she was juggling balls for other boys. Some subtle wordplay overshadowed the sexual innuendos, such as when Carly and her friend visited a restaurant named Penny's and Guppy reading a book named 50 Shades of Beige, and they capture his astonished stare at the book after he finishes it. Surely this book messed with a few kids' minds because it was named after the famous erotic novel 50 Shades of Grey. Another interesting aspect of growing up is how, as kids, we used to perceive things differently than we do now. When Freddie mentioned that he had to take his mom to a lady doctor, we thought he just meant a female doctor, but now it's pretty clear that his mom was seeing a gynecologist. Marvelous verdict! I mean, sure, it's a fact that none of these kids' shows had a responsibility to educate kids or teach them any sort of lesson. However, sometimes a film or series goes beyond just entertainment and tells a thoughtful story, knowing its audience. And for many Nickelodeon cartoons, their audience was never just kids. Therefore, since the 1990s, people have stopped treating cartoons as mere children's entertainment, and shows like South Park, Family Guy, and The Simpsons were born solely for adult and mature audiences. On that note, we've reached the end of our video. If you enjoyed this content, please hit that like button and leave a comment letting us know your favorite Nicktoon as a kid. Until next time, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.